In example 2 in lesson 5.5, we are looking at the situation again of home court advantage. This time we're looking at some data from the WNBA, and we're looking at points allowed during the 2008 season by the New York Liberty. So we have the number of points that they allowed in away games versus home games. And points allowed, we want to be a smaller number because that indicates the team played better defense. So basically, we want to know, are they playing better defense, home or away? So I would go ahead and you could just go ahead and put those two lists into your calculator. So we have away games and home games. We're going to start by writing our hypotheses. And remember, we start with a null, which is always that there is no difference between the two contexts. So the Liberty has the same ability to play defense at home and away. And we always want to state our hypotheses in terms of their ability to do something. The alternative then will be that the Liberty has greater ability to play defense at home than away, because that's the question that the prompt is sort of suggesting. All right, so we've got the first step done. Step number 2 is to calculate the test statistic. And this is where you're going to go to your data. You're going to calculate the mean number of points scored in home games and away games. And notice this time I have defined the difference as away minus home. If it doesn't tell you which order to subtract in, you can really choose whichever way you prefer. But I usually like to do whichever order is going to give me a positive test statistic. Definitely doesn't have to be that way though. So I calculated the mean number of points allowed for away games to be 79.3 and the mean number of points allowed for home games to be 70.6. So it appears that they allow more points away than home, which means they're probably playing better defense at home. Our test statistic is the difference in those two. So 79.3 minus 70.6 is 8.7. Now, step number 3, this is where we have to perform our trials of our simulation. So I'm going to show you how to do that now using the applet. So let me exit out of here just for a quick second. This is the applet that you're going to use, and it's called difference in means or medians. And you can actually use it with either one. And in lesson 5.6, we'll use it with medians. There is a little drop down thing here, which will tell you or let you indicate which one you want to use. And we're going to leave that as means. What I have in these two boxes here are the data from the home games and away games. And I used context 1 as the first one that was listed in your notes, and then context 2 was the second one listed. So basically, I just put them in the exact same order that you have them in your notes. And we want, like, notice here where this button says calculate observed difference. If I click that, it gives me the mean in each case, which I already calculated with my calculator. 79.294, we rounded that a little bit more. And then 70.588, again, we rounded in our notes, but that's okay. And then the observed difference is your test statistic. So it's giving us quite a bit of information here. We could have just put this right into the applet and it would have given us these numbers. So those are important. Now, what we want to do is run our simulation. And just like before, we have to tell it how many simulations we want to conduct. So I'm going to do 100. And I click the Add More Trials button, just like last semester. And I get this dot plot. And just like before, you can actually have it count how many dots there are. So we want to count the number of dots that are greater than, because we have a positive test statistic, or equal to, and we put our test statistic in there. And I'm just going to do 8.7 because we're rounding just to one decimal place. And we put count, and notice that's way over here on the right. And we probably could have figured that out anyway, right? Because if you look at the scale, 8 is right here, and 8.7 would certainly be to the right of that. And there are no dots to the right of that value, which means that the result that we came up with was extremely unlikely to happen by random chance. So what does that tell us about our p-value? It means that our p-value is 0, basically. All right, so let's go back here. And so you can sketch the dot plot there if you want. But then the p-value that we would estimate from our simulation would be 0%. We had 0 dots out of 100 that gave us that result. And then we can make our conclusion. So our p-value obviously is less than 5%. And that would indicate to us then that we would need to reject our null hypothesis. So if the null hypothesis was that there was no difference home versus away, this would tell us that there is good evidence that there's a difference. In other words, there's good evidence that the Liberty have a greater ability to play defense at home than away.